Hey, I'm John Tabler. Welcome back. And today we're going to think outside the box a little bit. I like to do on this channel fermentation, sourdough health, clean eating. And there's something in foods called lectins, and there's a lot of books out about that. Lectins, what they are is they're a protein that's in a plant that will protect that plant from predators and things like that. Gluten is actually a lectin. And so a lot of people have problems with these proteins and digesting these proteins. And it's kind of interesting when you think back, raw vegetables really only, I remember coming about in the 1970s in salad bars. When you study back and look at that. And before that, if you look at your grandparents, they were always cooking the vegetables, cooking the green beans, cooking the corn, cooking collard greens in the South, and everything was cooked. And, from the 1970s on, it was touted that raw vegetables, salad bars, and all these things were extremely good for your health. But have people's health gotten appreciably better since that time that have eaten those things? Of course, they smother it with dressing that's made from toxic oils and things like that. But it's just kind of interesting to think of those things, use critical thought, and realize that, when we make something like squash, you can fry it in a healthy oil, which is butter. Butter is extremely healthy. All this stuff they've said about animal fats being not healthy, now it's come all the way back around. And come to find out, they're the ones that are extremely healthy, and it's these overheated vegetable oils. Think what it takes to extract vegetable oil from a vegetable. The high heat and the processes that have to be done to even get that. It's so denatured by the time you'd ever put it in your body that it's just not what was used for years, like beef tallow and butter, for that matter. So what we're going to do today actually is fry some squash, but I want you to think about this. Squash is right here. This is a zucchini squash, a yellow squash, and that is a what? It's a cucumber. Now, why is it that these get fried and these get eaten raw? Have you ever fried a cucumber? That's what we're doing today. We're frying the cucumber just like a squash. I'm going to see what happens. I already know, and it's pretty awesome, but what I'm going to do is cut that cucumber right down the middle, just like I'm going to cut that zucchini squash right down the middle. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the yellow squash. And there we have, essentially, if you look at that, there's hardly any difference between that cucumber. But why is it that people only eat cucumbers raw? Well, that's over. And actually, you're going to be really surprised because you put that butter in that pan that's already warming up. Put plenty of butter in there. Trying to smoke up your whole house. And, I'd turn the fan on. Keep that down a little bit. You'll still be able to hear just fine. Then we're going to take these two. Now you could slice them like, there's fried pickles. Not many places make great fried pickles, but you cut these. Now I've already sliced it in half so it's not round, but if you lay these in the pan, you're essentially going to have what is fried pickles in that butter. Now I'm going to put this one face down. I'm not going to have enough room in this one pan for everything, but I'm going to put that face down. And I'm going to give you a look at this. And we're frying that in butter. We'll put a lid on it. You're going to love this because you're going to be like, now why is that? Why is everybody eating raw cucumbers, but then frying the rest of them or cooking the rest of the type of squash? Well, when it gets done, it's extremely good. Very similar to the same to the squash, but if you've ever had fried pickles, when you have fried cucumbers, you're going to be like, wow. So I want to give you a look at this closer up. And we're going to let it, what I do is I let it cook for about 4 minutes, flip it over, and let it cook on the other side. about 4 minutes, kind of like cooking a steak. And just keep an eye on it. And then it's done. You put it on the plate and salt it. So we can see now, when we take that lid off, that is frying in that butter. And I'm using a cast iron skillet, which is really awesome. And that isn't quite long enough yet. We want to let that go a couple more minutes, but I want to give you a look. While that's cooking, I want to give you a close-up of what these look like. This is the yellow squash, and then the zucchini squash, and then the cucumber. You can see that there's not a ton of difference between a cucumber and a zucchini squash and the yellow squash. And so, why is it that nobody fries a cucumber? Well, that's over. We're doing that now. So now that's about 4 minutes. We'll just flip these over. Those are flipped over. Okay, now it's been about 5 more minutes, and I actually flipped that cucumber over one time, because as you do that, you see that you can cook it just until it's just right. You can see the other side of that. Now what we're going to do is put them on the plate. And dish that up. And then we turn off the fan. Put a little salt on that. And then we have our creation, and you can see what's happened. And what that's going to do, of course, is completely reduce the lectins. So now the nutrients are assimilable. There's no longer that protein that's blocking the nutrients from being assimilated in your body, which is why so many vegetables, as far as I'm concerned, in the past were cooked. Your great-grandparents cooked these things. And again, they're starting to find out that a lot of people have digestion problems with not cooking them. But you could cook in olive oil. The thing about olive oil, it's not extracted at high heat if it's cold pressed, and then it's good for you. And the heat's much higher than anything you're going to be cooking with that they use when they extract those oils. But with this, it's cooked in butter, which is one of the most healthy things there is to cook in. And you have squash. This isn't exactly a dinner knife. And here's the yellow squash. And I'm going to give that a try. I'm going to let this cool down just a little bit. And as that cools down, we can see that they all look pretty similar. And that's what it looked like before, and that's after. And so now it's cooled down. I got my better dinner knife here. So what I'm going to do is cut these, and you know, sounds kind of odd eating a cucumber that's cooked, but you don't really think of eating zucchini that's not cooked. I suppose some people do. You always think, well, I'll cook the squash, but I won't the cucumber. That shows you how strong conditioning is. And if you can just kind of set that aside and think outside the box, you look at these, you're like, yeah, they're the same. They should be about the same. So I'm going to try the zucchini first. Now, for any cooking show, one piece would be enough. But it's really good. I'm going to keep eating it. And I'm going to try the yellow and see if I can see the difference. Those two taste very similar. And I already cut a piece of cucumber. The cucumber takes a little bit longer to cook through. And the thicker ones also, you have to let it go a little bit longer than the squash. It'll just almost just like a squash, but a little bit lighter of a taste. Gosh, if you've ever had fried pickles, these are fried pickles without the breading. It was really, really good. That's excellent. And it's a way, obviously, to cook your food and reduce the lectins, but try something different. Look, fried cucumbers, who's heard of that? Do that for your next meal. You have people coming over, give it a try. Everybody I've ever talked to likes fried pickles, and if you try fried cucumbers, and after you try it, you'll see how good it is and how close it is to squash. You're gonna be like, why didn't anybody ever think of that? Well, I just did. So hit like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the next video.